The question that motivates us in this work is, how can we provide feedback to online learners at scale? The whole promise of the Internet for Education is that any one of us across the world can just open up our smartphone, go to Wikipedia, start learning about policy or history. Or we can go into a MOOC on statistics, start solving problems. But there's a problem. Teachers in real classrooms don't just tell people facts. They give them feedback on the misconceptions and the incorrect beliefs they have. Let me illustrate this with an example. Imagine that you're a student learning in a MOOC on statistics, and you're trying to learn about how to compare samples from different populations. So you're given a problem. A university is trying to decide how to rank people from different classes. Tom's in a history class, Sarah's in a math class. How do they do it? I'm going to actually go through this example in depth because this is actually the basis for our experiment later on. We're going to use these exact same materials. So you might be told that Tom's got a score of 85%. Sarah's got 69. The average, Tom's class is 79 versus 65. High score of 90, 87. The standard deviation, Tom's class is 8. The standard deviation for Sarah's is 3. So put your left hand up if you think the university is going to rank Tom more highly. Put your right hand up if you think it's Sarah. Okay, you win. The reason the university ranks Sarah more highly is because she's more standard deviations above the average score. In statistics, you would say that Sarah's got a higher z-score or a higher standardized normal score. The problem is many people tackling this task have been shown to have a range of misconceptions. They might believe that Tom should be ranked higher because he's got a higher score, or he's more points above the average than Sarah is. We think of this as this fact that Sarah's ranked higher with these details as an anomaly with respect to the misconception, because this fact contradicts these misconceptions. Unfortunately, there's ample evidence that just providing people these anomalies won't help them learn or revise their beliefs. So how can we provide feedback on these misconceptions at scale in an online environment? One approach could be to automate feedback. Design artificially intelligent tutoring systems that might diagnose and remediate. Another is crowdsourcing, getting peers to comment on each other's ideas and provide feedback in that way. We're going to use a different approach. We're aiming to elicit people in generating self-feedback. Can we design online environments so that we can ask learners questions that will help them identify their misconceptions, generating self-feedback, so that they're then going to act as a computational resource to drive their own learning? This might seem implausible, right? Well, we're going to rely on work from education, showing that self-explanation, or having students explain just to themselves the meaning of a concept, can help them learn. Sometimes self-explaining helps students learn more than a teacher trying to explain the concept to them. And within psychology, my past life in my psychology dissertation, what I worked on was looking at how explaining why has a special impact, because explaining why a fact is true drives people to interpret this as an instance of an underlying pattern or principle. We ran a series of experiments to explore how we could design these prompts. We recruited about 500 people on Mechanical Turk, online crowd workers who invited to participate in a research study. Each of them saw the same kind of example that I showed earlier, a fact about Tom and Sarah being ranked higher, to investigate which kind of prompt would help them learn. We assigned people randomly to either be in the explain condition, where they would be prompted, explain why this student was ranked higher, or to be in the right thoughts condition, where they're prompted, write any thoughts you have about this information. So every participant would actually see 6 of these different facts. They'd see one, be prompted to explain or write thoughts, depending on their condition, then see another, explain or write thoughts, and so on. Another question instructors might have is, how many anomalies do we need to get people to reflect on? To answer that, we had a second experimental variable. We assigned people to either get a single anomalous fact or multiple anomalous facts. And this happened both within the explain condition and within the right thoughts condition. So we can look at the effect of these two variables. So to evaluate the impact of these different kinds of learning phases, we wanted to look at how accuracy changed from a pre-test to a post-test. In the pre and post-test, participants were given information about pairs of students, but they weren't told who was higher ranked. They actually had to predict that. And so that allows us to look at how accuracy, as measured by using the correct standard deviation rule, changes from pre to post as a function of whether they're prompted to explain or write thoughts, or have single or multiple anomalies. So let's look at the results. So the first question, are prompts to reflect on anomalies actually effective? So we evaluate this by looking at the accuracy increase from the pre-test to the post-test. To what extent are people increasing the accuracy of using the correct standard deviation rule rather than one of the misconceptions? We actually found that there's a 15% improvement. So just prompting people to reflect without any feedback, without knowing anything or telling them anything specific, got them to actually increase their learning. So this provides evidence that we really can use these prompts to get people to provide self-feedback on the misconceptions and then revise these. So the idea here is that by using an understanding of how people learn, we can actually guide design of an online environment so that we can actually leverage learners' minds as a computational resource. But if we prompt them the right way, they themselves can engage in the right cognitive processes to generate feedback to optimize their learning. Now, instructors might wonder which prompts are effective. On the vertical axis is accuracy increase from pre to post test using the correct standard deviation rule. And what you can see here is that explaining is significantly better for learning than writing thoughts. So it's not just any prompt. Explaining why is especially powerful. How many anomalies are needed to realize the benefits of explaining? Now what you see here is accuracy broken up by whether they got single or multiple anomalies. So there's actually no benefit of explaining when there's just a single anomaly. But when they're multiple, there's actually a significant advantage of explaining. So the benefits of explaining are realized substantially more when there are multiple anomalies to be explained. So just the presence of anomalies isn't sufficient. On the other hand, you can read in the paper about experiment 2, where even when you equate the number of anomalies, it still matters how you design these or organize them, where it was more effective to have people explain multiple anomalies that ruled out different misconceptions than to distribute them broadly. So to conclude, thinking about these scalable methods for generating learning feedback, prompts to reflect on anomalies can actually be effective, leveraging learners for computation to generate self-feedback and improve learning. Prompts to explain were more effective than writing thoughts, and multiple anomalies were more effective in realizing the benefits of explanation than just a single one. So in ongoing work, I'm combining my past life doing psychology with my current work doing machine learning and HCI. So the system that we reported at ACM Learning at Scale 2 weeks ago, it was published there, actually integrates automated, crowdsourced, and self-feedback approaches to be able to provide learners with explanations. If you're interested, this question of how to generate self-feedback via prompts. It's on the order of a 100-year research question. And we've actually applied for an NSF grant to use these online environments and MOOCs to bring together researchers from HCI, psychology, and machine learning to collaborate with instructors on probing how to help learners get self-feedback. This is enabled by a technology framework we've developed for collaborative experimentation among all these stakeholders. I'd like to end on audience participation. Can you explain to yourself, what did you learn from this talk? I'll give you 15 seconds. Maybe there were some anomalies that you thought of while you tried to explain. All right, I'd just like to take questions now, and thanks to Harvard VPAL and Khrushchev Gaius for feedback on this work. So at any point, you can go to that URL, tiny.cc/CQ, and type any questions or comments you have in there, and I can answer those later on. Thanks a lot.